Bonus chapter, chapter 17, Amon's adventure. It's called The Interrogation. Amon dragged Benjamin upstairs and Tamar followed. "What did you find out?" he asked. Benjamin was still trying to catch his breath. After he left the temple, Raphu went straight to his house. Benjamin swallowed hard and seemed to catch his breath. Then he guzzled a cup of water that Amon offered him. He stayed there all morning, probably sleeping. Amon nodded his head, agreeing with this deduction. Then Benjamin wiped his mouth and continued. When the sun was straight overhead, he left his house and went to an inn. He ordered a bowl of stew and some bread, but it looked like he goes there every day because everyone knew his name and they knew what he wanted to eat. Amon's face lit up. Perhaps he always eats there at noon. "Perhaps," Benjamin said. "I saw no woman in his house." What happened next? Amon pressed his friend. "After he ate, I followed him through the market. He bought a new leather pouch, some pomegranates, and a stone to sharpen his knives. After that..." Benjamin paused and smiled. "What?" Amon said. "What happened next?" "After that..." He repeated it slowly to make his friend suffer. "After that, he went to the house of chance." Amon's mouth dropped open. "I tell you the truth." "Yes, I only tell the truth," Benjamin answered in a standard response. Amon thought for several minutes. "It's perfect. At last, I must visit him tomorrow. I will intercept him after he eats." It was frustrating to the three to have to wait another day, but Amon needed to talk to the captain alone, and he was already back on temple duty that night. The afternoon news spread about Amon's water system, and the house was full of people curious about this new strange invention. The whole town was already talking about the glass windows and about Amon's wind machine at his teacher's house, but this new contraption was the most marvelous of all. Though some of the older rabbis weren't so sure it didn't violate one of their laws. When none of them could figure out which law had been broken, they each took a turn pulling the rope and laughing. "Your father will be proud of you when he gets home," Tabitha told her son. Soon, just before noon the next day, Amon and Tamar went to the inn near the base of the viaduct on the lower city side. Benjamin had stayed behind to do Amon's chores. Amon and Tamar had to wait almost an hour, but finally they were rewarded with the sight of Raphu, captain of the temple guard. He walked down the stone pavement of the street, then sat at a table outside the inn. Amon heard the innkeeper greet him kindly and ask if he wanted his standard lunch, to which the captain replied he did. Amon left Tamar's side and started across the street to the inn. Just then a rat climbed out of a sewer drain and ran across his feet. Amon yelped and jumped back, his feet moving like a donkey slipping on mud. Tamar stood behind him, laughing. "Is this a Jewish man I see in front, afraid of rats?" she taunted. Amon scowled at her, but inside he felt humiliated. He turned back to the street, checked for rats, then strode directly across to the inn, up to the captain's table. The captain was occupied with a walnut he had just acquired from a bowl on the table and didn't see Amon, which is good, Amon thought, because he probably hadn't seen the incident with the rat. "Excuse me, Captain," he said. "Would you be willing to talk to me for a moment?" The guard looked Amon up and down, then the wrinkles on his forehead smoothed out as he recognized him. "Oh, I don't mind talking to you, boy. I have nothing to hide." "Sir, I am 13, and I have been admitted to the court of Israel." Raphu bowed his head in apology. "Excuse me, young man. It is sometimes difficult to know." "No trespass," Amon said, sitting at the table opposite the captain. "What is it you want to talk about?" Raphu asked, reaching for another walnut. Amon looked the captain directly in the eye, pretending to have just noticed. He said, "Say, did I not see you coming out of the house of chance yesterday afternoon?" Raphu jumped a little and just about dropped the walnut. No, of course," he said. I would not." Amon knew that gambling was strictly forbidden for the temple guards and that the man would most likely lie about it. So now he watched closely, and as Raphu denied the accusation, the middle of his eyes grew wide as a dinner plate. "Are you sure?" Amon insisted. "I did think I saw you." Once again, the middle of Rafu's eyes grew larger. "No, no," he said. "Oh, well, I must be mistaken," said Amon. The guard gulped, and Amon noticed that his hand was shaking a bit as he popped the walnut into his mouth. Now Rafu said, What was it you wanted to ask me?" Amon asked the guard a few meaningless questions to get him to calm down. When he noticed that his eyes had returned to normal, he asked what he really wanted to know. Looking him straight in the eye again, he asked, "Captain, is it really true that your men were alert on the night my father sold lambs to the high priest at the treasury?" Without a pause or concern, Rafu looked him right in the eye and said, "Yes, that is most certainly true. My men are well trained and dedicated. They do not sleep while protecting the temple." Amon watched the captain's eyes closely. They did not change. So he asked the next question, "And you yourself, you were there all evening?" Amon knew that the Essences, a group of devout religious Jews, could go an entire night without... I did not leave the treasury for even a moment. We require neither food or drink or to relieve ourselves until our shift is over. Amon knew that the Essences, a group of devout religious Jews, would go an entire Sabbath in that manner. So he figured it could be true. And Rafu's eyes did not change, which proved it to him. "One more question," Amon said, "if you pardon me." Rafu nodded in agreement. "Forgive me for asking, but is it at all possible that someone else entered the treasury during the night?" Rafu shook his head slowly. "It is most surely an impossibility. Even if half my men had been asleep, which they were not, and the other half were looking, they would have noticed anyone entering the court of women. That someone entering the treasury, it's impossible. It just could not have happened." Amon watched the captain's eyes slowly. The middle part did not change at all. The man was telling the truth. Amon hung his head in disappointment. Seeing the young man's despair, the captain put his hand on Amon's shoulder and said, "I know your father, and do not believe for a moment that he committed this crime. But all I can testify to is what I saw, and I did not see anyone enter." When Amon stood as if he had 100 millstones hung around his neck, he thanked the guard, and he trudged his way home. Seated around the table of the overhead room, once again, he reported his findings to Tamar and Benjamin, then crossed Rafu's name off the list. "There's no one left on the list. If Sisera, the merchant, tells the truth, and the captain of the guard tells the truth, and my father tells the truth, there is no one left to steal the money. We are out of suspects." Tamar looked at the list and gasped, and then she was silent. "What?" Amon said. "What is it?" "Amon," the girl said slowly, "there is still one name on the list." That's it. Here's the next part. "You are my hiding place. You will protect me from trouble and surround me with songs of deliverance." Psalm 32:7. God promised a Messiah to Israel for many centuries before Jesus actually came to earth. It took time, but God did what he said he would do. Amon is getting impatient, and he can't see how things will turn out. He's getting frustrated and nervous, and is trying to make things happen on his own, but he doesn't like where his investigation is leading. What is it that you're waiting for with God? What is it that you dream about having or doing or becoming? Can you trust that he will give you exactly what you need when you need it? Can you put your hope in God, who promises to be your hiding place? See you later.